Every year, new ideas are formulated. Every year, innovations happen. Every year, inventions change the world. Every year, there's a revolution. But evolution takes millennia. Welcome to the next evolution of Kerbal space exploration. Welcome to the Kedillac SSTA. Hello and welcome to this overview of the Kedillac SSTA, a craft I designed quite some time ago in 1.04, and when 1.0.4 and when 1.0.5 came out, it required a whole new redesign. So this is technically an SSTO. I call it an SSTA because if you can refuel it, it can literally go anywhere. And depending on how well you can fly it, you may not even need to refuel it depending on the destination. But you've seen the advert at the beginning, so we'll now just go through a little overview of the craft itself. So at the front, for docking purposes, Clamptron inline shielded docking port. We have a Mark III cockpit and several RCS thrusters on the front, a large landing gear and air brakes on the front. They have several ladders on both sides, allowing for Kerbal easy access to the ground when deployed, and to the top of the ship in order to move back further down the ship for purposes we'll go into later. The Kerbal safety system, as I call it, consists of a TR XL stack separator with a reduced force on the separation, and what this does is it moves everything that's connected to it away, and that includes everything from this command pod back. Now yes, technically the command pod clips in to do this, but I don't care. Inside of the cockpit we have actually several parachutes able to support the fully loaded weight of this craft as it re-enters in an atmosphere. For atmospheres that are very low or non-atmospheric environments, we actually have 4 Thud liquid fuel engines, and inside we have some fuel for those engines, enough that you can get 2,417 meters per second of delta V. I've actually managed to take this thing off from the moon and return it back to Kerbal, just that capsule bit at the front. The rest of it, we have a monopropellant tank and several standard canards, that's hard to say, on the front to help with the lift of the craft at the front. We have more air brakes underneath. The electric charge and monopropellant capacity of this capsule have been removed, so it is just there simply for weight and spacing. We then move on to the fuel tanks, several of them in fact. So we just have some normal rocket fuel tanks here, and then we get to the interesting stuff. So we have 2 nacelles, mostly fuel tanks with some aerodynamic nose cones and the engines at the back. on the side of the wings. This is to provide enough lift to get up, because if you don't have these, it just isn't enough. After the fuel tanks, we have the way that you're going to get around and get back once you've been there. We have, this is hard, two drill sections here, drill-matic mining excavators, 2 of them. And we have some little rovers here that have the surface scanning available on them, so they can actually be dropped out, go around to find the perfect spot to mine. You can then bring the Kedillac SSTA along, and you can actually mine for resources. We have a large holding tank able to hold 1,500 units, a converter Tron 250 that will convert all the ore in here to liquid fuel, oxidizer, monopropellant, or all of the above. We have 3 Gigantor XL solar arrays able to power that, so even if you have every drill deployed and you're converting at the same time, it will still generate enough power in direct sunlight. I think you get something like 75 power, and you only need something like 70 for that job. We have 5 battery banks, one of them is hidden, providing 5,000 power. We then have a modular girder segment connecting those two to help maintain the rigidity of the vessel, and the science package at the back containing every science experiment possible. And pretty much that's the cargo bay. These ladders are for easy access, so that if you know in advance that you're not going to be able to take your craft back, or it needs to be crashed, or something along those lines, then you can remove the signs, get in the capsule, and return with the capsule alone. Also, of course, if you have a scientist with you, which, given that you can take 4 Kerbals, you really should, you're able to get all the science out of these and then take it to the capsule, move to a new location, and reset them and get more science. We have another monopropellant tank at the back. This is empty, for at least the liftoff. This is mainly for spacing, but once you're up in space and you're refueling, if you have monopropellant resources up there, you can use this as extra monopropellant. And we have several wing segments, not much to say there. We've got 4 of the aeroplane control services and 2 of the Elevon Mark IIIs, a large Big S spaceplane tail fin, and then we get to the fun part, the engines. All 21 of them. That's right, we have got 12 Rapiers, we've got 9 of these JX F4 Whiplashes, and 2 nuclear rockets, which are the long distance haulers there. Also, you'll notice this does have several landing struts. This has been fully tested, and all these landing struts deployed will support the full weight of an empty fuel vessel, so you'll have to have actually made the landing and used up all your fuel there. And that's pretty much it. There are fuel transfer lines, of course, got more landing gear on the back here, another one in the middle. Got some lights, so if you're landing in the dark, you can see what's going on and how close you are to the ground if you're not using Kerbal Engineer. Ignore the struts sticking up here, that's just Kerbal Space Program being annoying. We also have thermal control systems. We have 8 of them, 2 on each nacelle for the nuclear engines there. And that's it. Now, with this craft, I have found that getting to orbit and circularizing is extremely easy. With the amount of fuel I've got loaded in it, it does run close to the wire. You only end up with about 200 left on liquid fuel and oxidizer, but that's enough to make the little burns you would need to dock with a craft, refueling craft in orbit like I have. I will be producing a flight instructional video for this at some point. However, for the moment, this is just a sort of overview for you. We have RCS reaction control systems on the wings, on the nose, cockpit, throughout the body, at the front of these little aerodynamic bits, all over the place, and that is enough to be able to make the craft turn and rotate, and everything is fine. With this craft, you will find that flying in atmosphere, unless you're just going in one direction, can be a bit difficult. It's not the nimblest of craft. There's no super maneuverability with this thing. However, she can get you to orbit, she will get you to orbit, and she will circularize. Landing, you have to kind of ride it all the way down. You can't just leave it to its own devices. The front of the craft being so long from the main body means it has a tendency to flip over backwards. We do have the air brakes to try and counteract that, but I like to make sure that I'm always riding the controls all the way down to a landing there. I have found that when she is going through atmosphere like that, she has a tendency to pull to one side, so you have to keep the yaw with the tailplane working. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Took a long while to build this. As I say, I originally built it in 1.04. and in 1.04 all she needed was the 12 Rapier engines to get up to space and circularize, and had a load of fuel left over. But then 1.05 came out and everything changed, so I had to redesign it. So what I'll do is not save that, because I want to show you the closed version. There we go. Closed version, fully looking like a plane. And that was what I was kind of aiming for with the aesthetic, is to look like a plane. There are a lot of air intakes, you'll see. This is the right number to be able to continue burning up to the point where you'll need to change over to rocket engines. I did have pre-coolers in the back at one point instead of these structural fuselages. However, the weight meant that the centre of mass was either very close to or behind the central lift, which, if you know anything about KSP, you'll know is not very good. So I took those off, put the structures in, and put in these adjustable ramp intakes instead. The craft on landing can be a bit squirrely. I have had more than a few accidents in it. However, with a good pilot, getting down to the right speed and then just gently touching down and hitting the brakes, and it should be fine. It should be okay. I have landed this craft successfully on rough terrain a couple of times there. It's all about the speed and making sure you're not slamming into the ground. It does have a little bit of glide potential, but you will again have to make sure that you're on the controls there. So that is the Kedillac SSTA. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed flying the craft if you download it. Please make sure to leave a like on the video if you do like these craft. It lets me know that you want me to build more random KSP craft, and I'd love to do that. Any ideas you might have on a craft, let me know in the comments below and I'll see what I can do. But till the next KSP craft, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oh, what a time. 8 and 9. I usually end up having... The dog died? No. Astra. The food was there, it could have cured you under radiation if you'd just eaten it.